Digging Deeper Without the Coalface, the podcast that shares the incredible stories of the talented and passionate people in our industry. And it's now time for this week's episode of Digging Deeper Without the Coalface. This week's episode is brought to you by Fire Response. Fire Response is Australia's leading specialist in firefighting and emergency equipment. With unmatched expertise, a focus on quality and a commitment to customer service, Fire Response will deliver the solution you need to keep your people, assets and the environment safe. It's your host, Jessica Rouse.
Nguyen's been around the coal mining industry for more than 20 years. He's seen a lot. He's done a lot. These days, he has his own company, Core Mine, is also the CEO of a private mine company as well. Kim joins us on the podcast today. How are you doing?
Jess, I'm going very well, and thank you for the opportunity to have a chat.
Thanks for having us here at Core Mine. This office is such a vibe. I've just walked in and it's just fun.
Yeah, look,
it's cool. It's quirky. I'm going to have to put a photo up on our socials. Your mural behind us is so cool.
Yeah, look, it's pretty cool. Like, I love the mural because 4 out of the 5 photos that make up the mural are my photos that I took, and each one's got a little bit of a story. And even our bench here is. The general manager at the mine, he has a block over at Scone, and this is ironbark timber from his property.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's so good, but bloody heavy. It's 203 kilos just for this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
So, I need another bloke to help me lift it up the stairs.
Another bloke? I can help you. Come on. That's so cool. I think we'll talk about this mural. We'll do a video or have a yap about it at some point in the podcast. But let's start with Kim. Where'd you grow up? What was your upbringing like? What brought you to where you are today?
Okay, so look, most of your audience who are astute would pick up on my surname. They would have also picked up that I pronounce it. Nguyen is the Western pronunciation of it. I actually can't pronounce it in the Vietnamese heritage because I lost that ability at a young age. But so I was born and raised in Gladstone, Central Queensland, and my parents immigrated here from Vietnam.
Yep.
And they were basically shunted out because of the war. They're South Vietnamese, and Dad's story was really interesting in terms of how he came to be in Australia because he's a really clever cookie growing up in Vietnam. Earned a scholarship to do engineering over in Brisbane.
Oh, wow.
Did his electrical engineering degree, and then went back to Vietnam and practiced as an electrical engineer. And being Western educated in Southeast Asia, like you're a demigod, right? So, and obviously when the war broke out, where the North Vietnamese came down, he was forced out because he was also he was conscripted as well. So he fought shoulder to shoulder with the Aussies and the Americans against the Viet Cong. So obviously we all know how that ended up, and he had to get out, otherwise he was a dead man. Yeah. Right. So we end up in Brisbane, in Gladstone, and he worked as a power systems engineer, but he came here with nothing, right? So you think about this, and it's probably a long-winded response to your question there, Jess, but it does shape the way I am today. Yeah. And I will give him my parents a copy of the podcast if you decide to go ahead with it, because I might swear too much. But because quite often I don't share that with my parents, is how much I'm grateful for what they've done to shape me as a person. Yeah. And we had nothing. So imagine if you've got guns firing at you, it's not like you go, well, before I leave, I'm going to sell my house and then withdraw money from the bank. I mean, I don't even know if it existed back then. You just had to get out. Yeah. So the only thing you've got is what you can carry, which is stuff all. They were boat people, but over to Malaysia, got processed in a refugee camp in Malaysia, and that's how we end up in Gladstone. And so we were born. My brothers, I've got 4 siblings. So I'm a twin, a single guy, and another set of twins. And to carry on that story of resilience is. So I'm a twin. My name is Kim, and Mum and Dad decided to call my twin brother Tim.
Are we allowed to laugh at that?
Oh, Well, the next one might get a bit of a rise out of you. So in the 1980s, so you're growing up and in central Queensland, so they nicknamed us Dim and Sim and that sort of stuff. So,
That's great.
so look, I mean, that's and you learn to just basically, just get thicker skin and take the mickey out of yourself, and so that's probably its shape. Yeah, not only my resilience, but a sense of humour as well. So, it's been really, really good. So, did all my schooling and everything up in Gladstone, did a civil engineering degree in Brizzy, and basically literally fell into mining.
Yeah, so you were saying before that you were doing nothing to do with mining in the job that you were in at the time. You were literally making coffee for someone, and that someone happened to be really important.
Yeah, 100%. So, Mum's got a cafe. She still does. She's 77 years old, and she's just running this cafe over in Kangaroo Point in Brisbane. And I was just earning some crust there, and there was a regular. You always get your regulars coming in for coffees and stuff. There was one guy, I just knew him by Dennis, and he came in for his coffee, and he used to have some off-site meetings at Mum's cafe. And anyway, I just said, "G'day, Dennis, how you going?" But then the next minute, I found out he was the managing director of Roach Mining at the time, which is a tier 1 contracting company. And he said, "I heard your mum says you're doing civil engineering, and I'm a civil engineer. Are you looking for placement?" Oh, yeah, and that's how it all worked. He said, "Come up to this office," and I said, "Oh, yeah, where's Roach Mining?" Went up there, and next minute, I picked up work on my last year of uni, which was 2000.
Yeah,
and that was going straight down to Mount Arthur before it was even a mine. So we did the first box cut, built the ROM walls and that sort of stuff. Yeah, and that's how it all started in the year 2000.
That's so cool. It goes to show, right, wherever you are in life, whatever you're doing, if you have that persona that's kind and welcoming and, you just yap to anybody, anything can happen.
Yeah. Oh, look, and that's another thing I've got to be thankful for with Mum and Dad. They raised us to always be kind, and I think one of my personal values, which I didn't realise was one of my values, is gratitude.
Yeah.
So because we grew up with nothing, right? But guess what? We were so thankful for it.
Yeah.
Mum and Dad basically said, if anyone does anything kind to you, you say thank you. You have to be grateful for everything that you get. And it might not be a physical thing. It might be a compliment or something.
Yeah.
So that strong sense or urge and upbringing of being grateful for what we've got, it's when you're grateful, it's hard to be pissed off about too much, you know what I mean? Like you stop and pinch yourself and just go, look, I am lucky.
Yeah.
And what I like now and what I've been doing for the last probably 10 or 15 years is trying to share that as well. So I'm lucky, let's make other people lucky as well.
Yeah, exactly. So from that first job that you had in mining, take me through your mining journey.
Yeah, look, I would say I was an imposter mining engineer. So I'm a civil engineer, so I didn't know anything. So I didn't go through, so I couldn't make it as an underground. I wouldn't have picked up the ventilation and those technical aspects.
Yeah.
But so I stayed in the open cut and worked as an engineer. I went through the tier 1 contracting company, and I spent a long time there. So it was nearly 8 years there. And what I loved about that company is it teaches you the bread and butter of what we do. So for a tier 1 contracting company or any mining contracting company, you have to be bloody good at what you do. Otherwise, it's hard for you to survive or thrive. Yeah. So my groundings was in a contracting company, and it taught me the basics about the business.
Yeah.
We're in the game of doing things very, very efficiently.
Yeah.
And then I moved into a relatively smaller company, Idemitsu, which was at Muswellbrook Coal.
Yeah.
And that's probably where I was introduced to the leadership side of things. My mentor at the time, he was at Roach Mining, and even to this day, I still regard him as a social mentor. But he was pushing me to obtain my statutory qualification as a mine manager. And quite often, technical people are presented with that fork in the road. So do you continue with a technical career, or do you pursue a production leadership? And so I chose the latter. I'm a bit of a larrikin. I mean, some people say, "Oh, yeah, you're smart." I don't subscribe to that at all. And if my wife is listening, she'd be going, "Yeah, he's dead set right. He's not smart." So I followed the production leadership, so I could just have a bit of banter with the crews, that sort of stuff, and that was really, really, really great. And I ended up getting my mine manager's ticket in 2010.
Yeah,
and that was a bit of an eye opener for me and life changer. And you know, I've never chased a role or a salary or anything. It doesn't drive me.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I do now. But I didn't know back then.
Yeah.
And so I got my manager's qualification and just stayed as a tech services manager at the company. And a position became available, and I took that in 2011. And so I didn't go immediately hunting for a mine manager's gig after getting the qualification. Yeah. The cool thing about that was I was lucky enough to be asked by the equivalent of the resources regulator back then to help out as an examiner for the open cut managers and open cut examiners qualifications. So to set the exams and I thought, geez, I'm pretty fresh. You know, this is 2012, but I was mentored by some of those guys in there as well, and so we really got to. I felt that was probably the start of me being able to give back to the industry. Yeah. And so whilst I was functioning as a mine manager at Idemitsu, I was also concurrently an examiner for the Coal Competence Board with New South Wales. And I did that for quite a while. Then I left. I did that for up until 2019. 2021 it was. Yeah. When I decided to start my own company. But I left Idemitsu, jumped over back into another Tier 1 company, Tees, and I was a mine manager at Mount Owen there. And fantastic company, great people, great culture. Yeah. And I was very fortunate to work with some exceptional people there. And but that was probably the start of something deep inside me that was saying something's not right. Yeah. Something's just not right. And I didn't know what it was. And so I was presented an opportunity to jump to another role. So I didn't chase it. I would say I hadn't chased a role in my entire career, which is I've just sort of been hanging around and something's been offered, right? Yeah. But this role with BHP came up, and it was a little bit of a different role. And I thought maybe that'll scratch the itch. I don't know what the itch is, but maybe, and I don't know if this will scratch it.
Let's find out.
Let's have a crack.
Yeah.
And anyway, it was in that time with BHP where a really, really bad thing happened personally. So I think a lot of people who know my story know of a loss of my life companion. He was like basically a brother to me, and we lost him in the most unfair of circumstances. And that's probably what really hit home for me the most is the word unfair. Yeah. Is associated with that accident that took his life, and it also put his wife in basically an ICU, and she made it through miraculously, but she's got lifelong impediment after the accident, right? And that really shook me because I was at BHP at the time, and I got the phone call. I got the phone call from Tony's dad, Bruce. Tony was the one that we lost, and look, there was a bit of confusion to begin with, but I remember it. It was the 7th of January, and it was summer in the middle of a mine site in New South Wales. And when it all came together, when all the pieces of the puzzle came together, it felt like I was gut punched. My head hit the front dash of the Hilux. I remember I was just crippled over and physically, and the supervisor who was driving me around, she just took me straight up to the offices. She knew something wrong was happening, and so that woke me up to a few things that I was probably ignorant to as well. Like I didn't think you could be physically sick through some mental anguish, or some rough news, and I was. So it was a big wake up call to myself. And look, I will say, and this is not something that I'm proud of, but I used to think, just toughen up. just toughen up. When I hear stories of people's hardship, you go, oh, just toughen up.
Yeah.
And that's probably because of my upbringing, right?
Yeah.
And then, but then I learned, well, hang on, there's some things that'll really hit you for six, and you've got to allow some time to deal with it, right? So when I hear about people going into shock or whatever, I used to think that they're just too soft.
Yeah.
And shame to admit that, but that's how I thought. And here I was on the 7th of January, sitting on a windrow, so a pile of dirt, in the sun, and I'm cold. I'm shivering as I'm making the phone calls, because Bruce asked me, so Tony's dad asked me, can you make the phone calls? Can you let people know of the accident? And so that was so hard, and I remember shivering. And that really shook me, and I guess the other thing that came on the back of that was his wife. She's fighting for her life. She was hit by the same car, right? And so they choppered her from Tassie. The accident happened in Tassie, and they choppered her to Melbourne because they basically tapped out. We can't help you, sorry. We've got to get her to Tassie, to Melbourne. So she's in Melbourne. So her parents gave me a call, and they said, Kim, you know what's happened. Is there any way, we know you're busy, so this is how polite they are. We know you're busy. Mate, I'll drop everything for this, or have dropped everything for this. Can you make it down to Melbourne? Because when she gets through ICU, so they're obviously very hopeful, when she gets through ICU, we'd like you to be there when we tell her about Tony.
Wow.
That's pretty heavy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't get much heavier.
Yeah, so here you are, like I was down in Melbourne the next day, and you're battling two emotions. Like, you're trying to deal with the grief of a loss of a chosen brother, right? Best man at my wedding. I'm godparent to his youngest. We're so close. And then the other hand, I'm like clutching at, like, for hope for Benice's, pulling through this.
Yeah.
And I won't hide behind it. The ICU nurses, you could tell the body language, right? They don't bullshit you. They basically, but they don't sugarcoat anything, but they don't catastrophise either, right?
Yeah.
So they do an exceptional job. But you could read it. They had very little hope of her pulling through ICU, right? So those memories are clearly, they don't leave you.
No.
But they do shape you to where you are, and they shape you to where you are and who you are, and they certainly have done that for me. Those memories have done that for me, and I'm thankful for it.
Yeah.
And so I don't, obviously, extremely poor circumstances, or tragic circumstances, but you can't change that. So all I've got to do now is how do I get better from that, right? And so the last piece of the puzzle, which is probably a very long-winded answer to your question, Jess, is okay. So where have I gone in my career? I mentioned when I was at Tees, that was the start of me growing some sort of not so much confusion, but just something was up, right? And after that,
realising,
yeah. So after the accident, front and centre. So I've mentioned a few times now that gratitude is one of my strongest personal values, and I guess in some of the roles that I was doing, I was exposed to, for me, this is just purely for me, in my opinion, is I was exposed to some areas where there was a level of entitlement.
Yeah.
And if you think about gratitude and entitlement, they're basically opposite when you pitch them together. So that was the incongruence. That was the conflict. So, and I couldn't change. You can't change other people. You can influence other people. You can't change other people. But what I could change was my circumstances.
Yeah.
And so what I ended up doing was, and look, a side hustle was always brewing for quite some time. So I just thought, look, let's give it a crack.
Yeah.
Let's give it a crack. And so in 2021, I left traditional employment, started the coal mine consultancy, if you want to call it that, and I haven't looked back. It's been really rewarding, and I'm not talking about from a business success point of view. It has been successful. You know, we've got a team of 7 now, and but when I say it's rewarding, I mean the things that I do provide immense satisfaction.
Yeah.
Like if someone comes up to you, they obtain one of the things that we do is we help people obtain the qualification that I've got or the ACEs, and they break down after receiving that qualification, saying I never would have got it without you. It's like how could
That's so cool.
How is that not good, right? Like,
Exactly.
That's so good.
Yeah. I mean, you jumping out on your own and realising that this was something that you had to do. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen after you've been through the tragedy that you've been through? And, you know, if not now, when?
Yeah.
Life's short.
Yep.
You got to jump.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think I think for me, I've built up a lot. I like to call it like calluses. You know, I've built up calluses through my career and personally. So my definition of hard or my definition of difficult, that bar has raised substantially, right?
Exactly.
And there's some people. You know, I also wear 2 hats. So I've got my consultancy, but at nearly the same time, an old colleague of mine reached out and said, "Oh, I heard you're off on your own now," and he said, "Oh, I've just bought a couple of dead coal mines and I need a hand bring them back to life," right? So, so all the stress and stuff that I didn't get through the coal mine business, it was made up in droves when it came, I'm talking about this
Let's restart a couple of dead mines.
Yeah,
Why
right,
not?
Yeah. So then, so what I did, and so anyway, like it's extreme hardship. But I guess, like I was saying, my definition of hard is so much higher now than it was prior to 2020. The accident that happened in 2020, and some of the guys have quoted me in saying this. I said, I'll try and cut the colourful language out of it, but I said, I'm now harder to kill. I've got broader shoulders, thicker skin.
Yeah.
You're going to have to try hard to bring me down, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's not, you know, this particular issue that we're dealing with, it's unpleasant, but we'll bash through it, right? We've gotten through way worse, right? So I sort of anchor myself on some of those hardships and remind myself of what hard looks like, which then shapes how I react or how I behave and conduct myself going forward, and how I respond to different stresses and you know, life is, you know, one of the privileges of life is we get to deal with hard stuff.
Yeah,
There's good
exactly.
and bad. So you'll always get it. It's just how you perceive it.
Yeah. I guess in starting your own business, it's not like you're just starting in the industry. You've got 20 years of varying levels of jobs and experience that you can pull into your own business.
Yeah, look, that's a really good point. What was a real springboard for me, and this is only just coming into mind as we're talking now, and I thank you for that, Jess. You do an exceptional job in getting the candor out, you know, which is great. Yeah, that's how I like to operate. But you mentioned before about treating people kindly and fairly, and I look. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure there's some listeners going, "Oh, that bastard! I know. I remember him." Right? And fair crack. You know, like I've done some things, that you know.
Not everyone's perfect.
Yeah. Well, I come close.
I knew you were going to say that.
Look, I've certainly made my fair share of stuff ups, but what I like to hope I've done is I've learnt from them.
Yeah.
And but look, I guess I look back on my career and how I've held myself. I am largely proud of what I've done and how I've done it. There's obviously areas there that I need to give myself an uppercut, but in having a reputation that you're proud of, that certainly has helped in terms of fostering relationships and starting a business. And the nature, you know, the core mine business is largely a mining competence business, and so we help people. We basically help leaders be better.
Yeah.
And so we do that in several ways. But starting off that type of business, I found it quite easy to get the momentum up. I gave myself, from a business planning point of view, about 6 months. I thought 6 months on the grass, it'll give me time to build stuff and content and start business planning. And I remember day one, Monday, I got a phone call, 7 o'clock, and it was a mine manager at Mangoola at the time, and he said, I need you to come and do this. And then and the mine manager at Bulga said, are you free now? You've cut the chains, all right? Come out the site later on today. And so I didn't even have that 6 months. So then I guess probably another thing that's probably interesting as well about that is you don't realise how much shit you can actually do.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
It's like, here's a deadline. Okay, roll the sleeves up, get it done.
Exactly.
So I gave myself 6 months, and I probably, realistically, I reckon I would have burnt all of that, and then the last month maybe done something.
Yeah.
Whereas I had 7 days and to get something from zero to operating. So, so that was another big lesson as well. It was like everything is figure-outable.
Yeah, exactly.
Mankind's put people on the moon. We're just digging holes, right? So we'll be able to sort it out.
And that would have shown you too, like, to have people calling you saying, hey, great, come out and do this. That showed you and proved that what you were jumping out and doing was worthwhile and needed and people wanted it.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, I did, don't get me wrong, I did see a need as well. Yeah. So, and if I can talk about that a little bit, is the need that I saw as an examiner. I'm sitting on the table, the other side of the table, and I'm quizzing people. So we set the written exam. So the process in New South Wales is if you sit a written exam, you sit 2 written exams. Yeah. And if you pass those, you sit for an interview. Now, what I saw, and when I say an interview, it's with like an inspector or a couple of other mine managers. And you get, it's just
like a practical kind of make believe kind of practical.
Yeah, there's scenarios. Yeah, there's scenarios getting presented to you.
But
they also pump you for legislation, and nothing is more nerve wracking.
Yeah,
like it's like a gun to a head saying, "Okay, what's clause 18 of the Act say?" And you're like, "Oh."
I'm interrupting your story. A friend at the gym is right now studying for her OCE, and she is freaking out about the scenario situation. She said, put me out in the middle of the mine site and something's happening, I'll sort it, no worries. But put me in a situation where there's an examiner and 2 people asking me what the legislation is, your brain just goes, ah.
Yeah, look, that's exactly right. And so I guess what I saw was there was some preparation and some support to prepare these candidates. But I sort of looked a little bit deeper. I look at the human element of that whole interaction. Yeah. And what I mean, guess what? It's not just about rote learning the legislation or trying to cookie cutter what you do in certain scenarios. I want to dive a bit deeper. It's like don't pull out this recipe card to attack this scenario. Is pull out a risk management process and go, well, what am I scared of happening? Okay, how do I stop that from happening? And that's as simple as it gets to. The other thing that I looked at as well is a lot of these candidates, especially for open cut examiner phase, you get a lot of for people who are deputies and open cut examiners. A lot of them come directly from the front line. Yeah, and some of those guys haven't sat. And when I say guys, I mean guys and girls. They haven't sat an exam in 10, 15 years.
Exactly.
Or when they did HSC or year 10, right?
Literally.
So no one's teaching them how to even sit an exam.
No.
So I'm saying just time management and how to leave a little bit of review time at the end. Because, I've gone through uni and so we were smashed every semester, right, for 4 years. So you get used to that. But poor old mate who's just spent 20 years literally at the coalface.
Exactly.
Here's a pen, and you've got 2 hours to sit this exam. Well, that's extremely daunting. So that's what we've incorporated is we focus in on technical stuff, but we also teach about the soft skills as well. It's like, hey, this is what time management is. Yeah. This is how you can pace yourself. And look, we're pretty happy with the contribution we're making based on the fee that we're receiving, not just from the candidates, but we are getting some feedback from some industry guys who are doing the exams as well, saying like we're generally seeing an uplift in candidates. So,
yeah, that's awesome. What are do you have future goals for Core Mine? Do you want to throw that net wider? What's next?
Oh, you had to ask that question, didn't you? Look. I would like Core Mine to be independent of me as an individual. So I don't want it to be just a consultancy that revolves around an individual.
Yeah.
And so what we've done is we've created a web app as well. So what we've done is to describe what Core Mine does is, I said before, we help mining leaders be better.
Yep.
And we do that through these programs to help people obtain their qualifications. But on the other side, we also help people maintain their qualifications if they've already got it.
Yep.
Because that's a new change, or it's a relatively new change in the New South Wales industries where they've mandated a maintenance of competence. Queensland's just gone live with theirs, and I believe WA is not too far away. So what it means, doctors, accountants, pilots, they all have to maintain a level of continual professional development. So we're now in that. So we help people. It is a little bit of a complex scheme, and so what we've done is we've created a web app to automate it. So it's been pretty good, and we've got we've got over 800 users on the platform now. So there's potential to grow that outside the state of New South Wales.
Yeah.
So we do that, and it's quite it's a part of the legacy that I'd like to leave behind as well. Is at some stage someone's going to kick me out of the seat, and we've got something there that can keep going. So there's that side of things, and we're branching into the underground as well. So we've had an exceptional team member join us recently. So he's expanding our offering from obviously the offerings quite centred around my skill set, which is open cut, and now we have an underground expert coming in, and so he's in, and we're developing content now to expand the offering. And as an example, say the deputies at the moment, deputies don't have a support process for the exam at all. So we're going to do the state's first one, and so they're some of the things that we're pretty proud about or proud of is leaving that legacy and just having a positive impact on our industry and driving it forward.
Yeah, exactly. What did you say? You want your funeral to be packed?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a morbid way of looking at it. But look, one of my other values is legacy, and like I was saying to you before, Jess, nothing would make me more happy, but I guess it sounds silly. So at my funeral, whenever that time is, I want the place to be jam-packed and people be sad as all buggery, because that would tell me that I've done half a good job, at least.
Yeah. Exactly. Now, we've talked all about the work stuff, but there's more to Kim than just Core Mine and mining. I spoke to you a little while ago about soft cogs and what you're doing in that space. Just take us through that for anyone who hasn't heard about it.
Soft cogs, yes, that's a passion project of mine. It's my 20-year-old baby. So Soft Cogs is the team name that we started back in 2005 it was, and with Tony Campbell. So the late Tony Campbell, and he and I started Soft Cogs, and what it was basically we didn't mind riding our pushies, and we did so in around the Hunter Valley, and we entered a couple of events, and we went to Lake Macquarie, and there was a big event there back in the day called Loop the Lake, and we saw these teams. Like all the different company teams. There's banks and construction, but there was no mining teams. And we thought, bloody hell, we can do something with this. We're not being represented well because mining does do a lot for the community. So let's put it up in lights, right? So that was the birth of Soft Cogs. We got the approval to form a team. We formed a team. We chose a charity. Oh well, we actually chose a ride. I'll be absolutely honest. We didn't choose the charity itself. which is multiple sclerosis.
Yeah.
We chose the ride, and this is probably where the start of the genesis of my entrepreneurialism is. I went, well, to attract riders, we need to choose. I think what would attract more riders is the ride itself, not so much the charity, right?
Yeah.
And the Gong ride, the Sydney to Wollongong bike ride, was a very well established. It was in its 20th year when we first started. And so we said, let's do that ride as a team. And so we did so. We fundraised and we raised a fair bit of money. Like in my mind, I thought, I was reflecting back to the days where you're door knocking, getting a couple of
Yes.
bucks. Yeah, and getting stuff all. Whereas we got the first year we got 10 grand, and I thought we might get a couple of hundred.
Yeah,
we had 19 riders, 10 grand, so that's pretty cool. I was going to give it up because I thought, it was a big hype and all that sort of stuff. And that mentor, Lindsay Crutch, that I was talking about, Lindsay, he asked me, so he was one that approved it.
Yeah,
and he said. Also, the next year came around and he said, Kim, you're going to do the Gong ride again with the soft cogs. I said, mate, I think the honeymoon's over, everyone's had a bit of fun.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone will be keen. He goes, nah. And I tell it a bit more blunt than he says it, but he said, get it back on the horse, have a crack. And so we did. And we end up nearly tripling the riders and tripled the fundraising, or more than that. We got 70-something thousand in the second year.
Wow.
And it's grown ever since, and it's probably plateaued. Like anything that's been going that long, obviously suffers fatigue. But we're still, this year we did our 20th year, which is exceptional. We still had 55 riders. We're all basically mining and community riders.
Yeah.
It's not just our own networks, it's the partners and family members and friends who join in. And we raised 120 grand just ourselves this year.
Massive.
Yeah, bloody huge. And in 20 years, that's $1.6 million from our team alone.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's so good. So good. And
you've tooted your own horn for about half an hour, but you also raised the most money individually.
Yeah, I wasn't going to raise that. Yes, about 63,000.
Huge.
Yeah, so it was really, really good. And we fostered, what we've done too, though, is it's more than just the ride. Like we see we've met so many great people who live with the condition, and just to see what impact that we have on them it's truly moving and inspiring. But the other thing that we created too is a sense of community. Yeah, and so the team members that we have, we click together really well, but we bring other people in, and people just can't help but to get wrapped up or swept up in the vibe and the flow. And we've even created a we call it Men's Shed. So it's our version of Men's Shed. We go mountain bike on a Sunday afternoon. We call it Sunday Church, and we zip around the track in Singleton here on our mountain bikes, and then we just crack a tin at the tailgates and just have a laugh, and we just get to have a bit of a banter, and it's our way of just. As blokes, especially, we don't do a good job of opening up, I suppose. No. And a previous guest of yours, Steve Fordham, said something very similar, and I wholeheartedly agree. There's a stigma about us, blokes, and I was half getting emotional today talking about Tony, and guess what? I'm okay with that. Yeah. Because it means I still give a shit about him, and he still impacts my life.
Exactly.
I find it really grounding that his memory and his legacy helps make me a better person, but also how do I share that legacy? And so that's my mission, and it shapes me as I go forward.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up your Sunday church, because that's something that really stuck out to me when we chatted a couple of weeks ago about soft cogs, and it really ties back into the fact that, when you lost Tony, once upon a time you would have said, come on, toughen up, you'll be right, don't worry about it. But, having a bunch of blokes, and I'm sure there's probably women too, just to sit and have a yap and know that they can talk about something if they want to, and they're comfortable, because we just don't do it enough.
Yeah, that's right, and it's so helpful. And you're right. There's men and women that we all ride together and have a lot of fun. And I guess I guess you don't know what someone else is going
exactly.
through. So just even a chat and a bit of a joke can make all the difference.
Yeah.
And so that's what I quite love. That's what I quite like about the soft cogs. It's more than just a once a year ride.
Exactly.
It's so much bigger than that, and it's hard to articulate. Even just talking to you now, Jess, it's so far. It just doesn't do it justice compared to actually doing being part of the ride. So maybe next year, Jess, you saddle up and join the team.
You see, you don't realise the task you have ahead of you because I can't ride bike. So you have to literally start at square one with me.
That's no excuse. I
don't know, I've used it so far for 30 years. It's worked quite well. Kim, it's been such a pleasure having you on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Jess, it's been fantastic. And what you do and the Coalface with Digging Deeper, keep it going. I love it because it provides balance for our industry. We do great things and
we do.
We need to put it on a pedestal. So what you're doing and through the podcast, Coalface, Digging Deeper, pat on the back. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of Digging Deeper with At the Coalface. You can download more episodes of the podcast on all your favourite podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, also on YouTube, Amazon Music, all the usual places. Make sure you leave us a rating and a review. We'd love to hear what you thought. And if you do have a story idea or something you'd like us to talk about on the podcast, please send me an email, jess@coalface.net.au. I'd love to hear from you, and we'll be back next time for another episode of Digging Deeper with At the Coalface.